tell you something about Andrew. This is my boy right here. You disrespect him, you're disrespecting me.
Inside fighting. Shout out to inside fighting.
We are back. It is the Fight Season Podcast. It's me, Jesse Rowe, with Inside Fighting, joined as always by Timothy James, a.k.a. Timmy Shoes. Timmy, how are you, brother? Live from Brasilia. How are you?
Live from Brasilia, Brazil. I am glad to be back. It's always a pleasure being on the Fight Season Podcast. We've got some interesting things to talk about.
We do. It's we obviously love Ryan Garcia here at Inside Fighting. We're big fans. So I always have my notifications turned on when he posts something, when he tweets something. So I'm always actively following his tweets. And today I was actually picking up some medicine for my dad, and I'm in line, and I'm in the pharmacy, and I get a notification that Ryan Garcia goes live. So I'm like, all right, screw it. I put my headphones in. I'm just chilling, and all of a sudden, this was the last thing I was expecting today. Ryan Garcia starts beefing with Dillon Danis in his Instagram live.
I think be real, and you guys are just being judgmental, really what it is. What are you gonna do, Dillon Danis? First of all, I have Nate Diaz beat the shit out of you. First of all, and me and your own best friend is partners in the company, so just shut up. Like, you're not really like that, bro. You're a bum. Like, literally. See, I already went on you once. Look do you want to fight or not, Dillon Danis? Like, let's just fight. I'm done talking. I don't even need to fight you, but if I do, I'm gonna just knock you out.
And Ryan goes off. Ryan goes off on Dillon Danis, just went nuclear on him, and then drops the bomb of all bombs when he said, I'm gonna have Nate Diaz beat the shit out of you. Now, Ryan and Nate have been hanging out recently with our good friend Andrew Capichetti, so they have spent some time together. I don't even know where to start, but what did you think when you saw that? I feel like this is the dynamic duo that I didn't know I needed, and it's the fight I didn't know I needed either.
Listen, I think it's hilarious. Dillon Danis has this weird way of interjecting himself into fights that, he has no business in. I think Ryan said that he would knock his ass out, and he probably would. He definitely would if they were boxing, obviously.
Yeah.
I think he threw a Nate in there because if Dillon's like, oh, fight me in MMA, he's going to have an advantage because of the grappling, but not against Nate Diaz. So I think it's funny. I think it's a little bit of fun. I think Dillon Danis is doing what Dillon Danis does. I think it's a little bit of cloud chasing, right? Ryan Garcia is one of the biggest stars in the fight game. And Dillon Danis, but this whole oil him up thing, it's kind of funny that this is happening now because there was a point in time, MMA fans, hear me out. Why are we doing this oil him up thing now with Dana White? Rachel Ostovich fought Paige Van Zandt. Why didn't we do it back then? I'm just saying, hear me out. We could have oiled them up. No, now we're trying to oil up Dillon Danis and Dana White and everyone else. It's all good fun.
That being said, Dana was supposed to get oiled up if he didn't announce the UFC 300 main event last week. Nina Marie Danielle, she posted a video saying that he was going to get oiled up. That's another story. But as I'm talking about this, I just saw Dillon actually posted some DMs with him and Ryan.
Oh, wow.
And Ryan says to him that he's down for an MMA fight with Dillon.
Wow.
And that he's down. He says, talk to Dana, make it happen. Now, obviously, Dillon Danis is not a member of the UFC, so he's not employed by Dana White or the UFC. So I don't think that you can just talk to Dana. He's been trying.
He wants that contract.
Well, why is Conor not fighting and Dillon's not? I have some thoughts about this. We'll get to that later, but
interesting.
Here's the thing. Dillon's obviously, this is exactly what he wants, because as soon as I posted this highlight on Twitter, on X, who reposts it? Dillon Danis. He reposts it, and it's a video saying Ryan Garcia says he's going to have Nate Diaz beat the shit out of Dillon Danis. And Dillon Danis is the one who reposts it, so he clearly enjoys this attention that he's getting from this.
Right.
This is all part of his brand is hyping this up, but that's why I think he's actually a very intriguing person to get on your payroll, to bring into a promotion. Because he's obviously very good at hyping things up, and he's very good on the internet and on Twitter and everything and getting the attention. The problem is if you actually get him into the octagon, if you actually get him into the ring, that's the challenge. So, yeah, I mean, obviously Ryan Garcia would beat the shit out of Dillon Danis if it was a boxing fight, or Nate Diaz even too, but still very funny nonetheless. What were you going to say?
I'm glad Ryan Garcia is interested in MMA a little bit. Maybe hanging out with Nate is starting to rub off on him a little bit because I've said this before. I'd like to see more boxers enter MMA and challenge themselves. And it seems like we're heading to a place where boxers are becoming more interested, right? Deontay Wilder said he was interested. Clarissa Shields is in the PFL. I don't think she's fought MMA yet, has she? Or did she fight her debut? I think she won her debut, actually, if I'm not
She's
mistaken.
going to be
Don't quote
fighting
me on
soon.
that.
I don't know if she's fighting this week or I don't know when, but she is fighting in the PFL very soon.
Right. So we have more boxers becoming interested in crossing over. And I'd like to see it. I think Ryan would do really well in MMA. I think Ryan's smaller than Dillon Danis is, though. Dillon used to
Like
fight.
Ryan fights at like 140 and Dillon fights at
Yeah.
170 or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but really, that
But
being said, though,
if Ryan wanted to test that out MMA, I'd love to see that. Obviously against maybe not against Dillon Danis, maybe against Dillon Danis. I don't know, just because it would be a spectacle. But I do like the idea of big boxing stars crossing over because you
I
don't see it
do.
as much, and it'd be fun.
I do too, but I think it's more likely that we end up seeing. Now, this is just purely speculative on my part because I do, this is all just from talk. I do think it's possible that it's more likely Ryan boxes a big name MMA fighter like Sean O'Malley. So that would be my guess, is that Sean
Yeah.
O'Malley ends up becoming so big in the UFC, not Conor level, let's say like half Conor level, but he's obviously a very good puncher and striker. And then, him and Ryan Garcia start talking some shit and they box in the boxing ring. I do think that has a possibility of happening because it's a big money fight. And I do think Dana might let it happen for Sean. I don't know, not many others, but for Sean, he would. But let's move on here because we mentioned, speaking of boxing, MMA fighters going over to boxing. Conor McGregor, we're waiting to find out what his date is. And I don't know about you, Timmy. I'm getting a little concerned about what's actually going on with Conor because I am one of the few who has believed from the beginning that he is going to make his return, that he will fight again. But there's a big question mark around the date of his return. He announced on New Year's Eve that he'd be fighting. Let's actually reverse the timeline here. He signs on to do the Ultimate Fighter with Michael Chandler, and Dana White says that they will be fighting later in the year. Well, that was early last year, right?
Yep.
Supposed to be like summer of last year. We talked to Conor McGregor at the Ryan Garcia fight when he was playing roulette, and he says sometime end of summer is when he'll return. Okay?
Yep.
And then later on in the year, we're not sure what's going on. The USADA stuff starts happening. Is Conor avoiding the USADA program? Is he not in the pool? So we get towards December, we start finding out, USADA is actually getting the boot because they said some shit about how Dana White and UFC was trying to change the rules in favor of Conor McGregor. So they ended their relationship with USADA.
Yep.
Now we're in 2024. Conor McGregor on New Year's Eve says that he's fighting at International Fight Week. Michael Chandler makes the big announcement. But then a month later, he tweets, hey, if you put the fight at UFC 300, that'll seal the deal. And then Dana White goes on Pat McAfee yesterday or 2 days ago and says, or yesterday, it's the fight, nothing's booked. We don't know when, probably in the fall, end of 2024. This is now over a year. That'll be a year and a half from the time of the Ultimate Fighter. And now, I know I'm rambling here, but it's important to lay this out in context. And Michael Chandler has not fought since he fought Dustin Poirier in November of 2022.
Wow.
So what the hell is going on?
It's a good question. It's a good
Yeah.
question. Everything's a little bit up in the air. I don't think Conor feels the pressure to have to fight. I feel bad for Michael Chandler. He's been sitting out. The dude could have fought twice or three times during this little, period. It's hard
He
to say
fights, he
what's going
loses the
on.
fight, though, I think. If he does fight, he loses the fight.
You think Conor loses?
No, I'm saying I think Chandler would have lost the chance to fight Conor if he fights somebody else. I'm saying like
Oh, yes,
that
yes.
fight's off the
Oh,
table.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that I agree with. Um, it's hard to say what's going on. It seems like there's some contract negotiations because Connor said, let's get this deal done. Maybe there's some problems there. Maybe he wants more money. Maybe the dates don't line up. It's hard to say really what's going on. And I don't think Connor feels like, he's not going to feel pressed to get something done if it's not on terms that he likes. Because let's be honest, he's the guy who's going to be calling the shots. He has more leverage than any other fighter ever in MMA, right? So if he's like, I'm not going to fight unless it's on some good terms. I would like to see him fight at UFC 300. I would like to see him fight International Fight Week. The thing about those cards is that those cards are already stacked, and I think the UFC would prefer to put a Conor McGregor fight on a less stacked card because it like covers the losses. You could put Conor McGregor on a fight night lineup, and all of a sudden everyone's going to be watching. You know what I mean? Whereas UFC 300 in the main event, you could put a lesser event because a lesser superstar, let's say, like a Pereira versus Adesanya, and that's going to do really well because it's going to mesh well. Whereas it might be a little bit overkill having McGregor headline a card that's already so stacked. I think that's the logic. Don't quote me on that. I'm not in the inner circle with Sean Shelby and Hunter Campbell, so
Yeah.
I don't really know. I think it might have something to do with that, though.
Here's the thing. I don't know if it's just that. He only has 2 fights left on his contract. That's another thing, a factor here. And it happened with Nate Diaz, where he was very much like it was tough to get Nate in the ring towards the end of his contract with the UFC, in the octagon towards the end of his contract with UFC. You have such a big name. You have 2 names left. They might be suspecting that Conor wants a chance at to do some, maybe, I don't know, do some bare knuckle, do some other boxing.
Yep.
That he's going to explore other opportunities, and he might want to get to that point quicker. Whereas the UFC, their standpoint might be, we have this cash cow, we have this massive star. It actually might the element of a looming fight for Conor McGregor, just constantly being pushed and pushed and pushed, could actually be business tactic. And it's actually more beneficial for them to drag these fights out as long as they can than it is to just make the fight happen because it's UFC 300 or International Fight Week. It could be savvy business move on their part. I'm not sure either way. I just know I want to see him in the octagon as soon as possible, but it might be that they're just going to drag it out as long as they can because they get more out of it by doing so.
Well, we know he was interested in boxing. He's been talking about boxing Manny Pacquiao for a while. They had a legal dispute that Conor won, but he was planning on boxing Manny after Dustin Poirier, the first rematch. Then he got knocked out and things changed. And we also know he's interested in BKFC. And David Feldman was talking with Dana White. David Feldman is the president of BKFC. We don't know what they were talking about. People are speculating maybe it's Mike Perry, maybe it's some sort of crossover, maybe the UFC is going to absorb BKFC. We don't really know, but we know for a fact Conor is attending BKFC events. He's talked about how interested in the sport he is.
He's sponsoring it. Forged Irish Stout is a sponsor of BKFC.
Exactly. So obviously, maybe Conor wants to venture out into new things because that's a fast growing sport. And just imagine how much it would explode if Conor McGregor was involved somehow, whether that's, fighting or promoting or who knows what. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of factors going on. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is, but I agree with you 100%. I really want to see Conor fight again because I want to know what he's got left. Because, he did have that big leg break. I don't know if Chandler's even the right fight for him. I'd honestly rather see him fight Nate. or someone, because a Nate would be a much bigger fight, and I think it would be better. So
Yeah, Chandler, it's a good name, but he's also like just kind of he gasses out quick, but he's probably the most powerful lightweight in the division. He just got that equalizer. So I don't know. Not that it's more dangerous than Nate, but I guess I'm just like thinking like it might not be the biggest money fight. I agree, but either way,
yeah,
Conor McGregor versus Mike Perry is fucking fire. I don't care what you say. That's fucking awesome. That would be the greatest press conference ever. It'd be fucking fire, bro. I want to see it. I want fighting at
I'd
like
love to see it.
175, 180 or something like that would be awesome. I would.
And
Love
I could easily picture that fight playing out with something like Mike Perry's face is going to be battered like a pancake, but he's just so tough that Conor's going to gas himself out, punching Mike Perry in the face, and Mike Perry's just going to walk in there. His nose is going to be over here. His eyelid's going to be down here. Let's see that. Fuck it. Sign
that would
me
be
up.
awesome. That would be awesome. We've seen everything with Conor. That would be a great one.
Let me tell you something about Andrew. This is my boy right here. You disrespect him, you're disrespecting me.
Inside fighting, Shanti inside fighting.